Okay, so you guys tech things happen. So what you probably witnessed is a break in me transitioning from the laptop over to the phone. And so, Deborah, thank you for being flexible. But there's a lot of stuff happening. So it could be something happening with the cord lines. We don't know yet. I didn't check. Deborah was explaining, or I put her on the spot, if there was a sports team that was coming up to say, hey, Deborah, can you create this specialty tour, what would you do? Where would you take them?
So first and foremost, the place that we historically take everyone to is Holcomb Rucker Park. So Rucker Park is legendary, right? And it's basketball related, but I don't even know if you're familiar with Rucker Park, but Rucker Park is a location where a gentleman by the name of Holcomb Rucker started this organization for kids to play basketball for safety and just to get off the street. Fast forward, rap rappers started getting leagues of their teams of their own, and it became like EBC, which is where a lot of entertainers, it's called the entertainer basketball, they were playing against each other. So if you go back and listen to some rapper songs and you hear a reference to Rucker, then they're talking about Rucker Park. So every summer it's a league and they play, and the winner just gets all this excitement. So for us, it's important to introduce Rucker Park for his historical contribution to Harlem and to the future, and for the continuation of what is done and how hip hop has it merged into what Rucker tournaments are. So
Oh,
we've had a lot of people who don't play basketball as a sport, but they still want to go to Rucker Park because it's globally known. And if you watch N1 basketball, any of that stuff that was out before your time, probably, those those are the areas, and that park is just like Mecca to some people.
mhm. Yeah, I'm pushing 40. I'll be 40 in May. So I'm very familiar with N1, and I've heard Rucker Park, but I've only been to New York once. So I still need to get out there and get to enjoy it. We did a family reunion out there. So I don't know all of the history and the monuments, but that just sounds so amazing. Now, when you go there, I imagine you're going to take them there, you're going to give them some education about, the background, the history, and then they get a little stop at a food place or something. What's around the corner from Rucker Park?
Well, Rucker Park is really in a residential neighborhood, but it's at
Okay.
the tip of Harlem. So it's 10 minutes away from most of the most famous popular restaurants, Sylvia's, Melba's, if you're looking for soul food, which is a lot of the more popular restaurants in Harlem tend to be soul food, right?
Hmm.
Even Red Rooster, Samuel, he's the celebrity chef. He won one competition. He has a restaurant, so that's really really popular for visitors because of his celebrity. And I guess
Hmm.
the food is good. I've never had it personally, but I think the food is good. He does live music, so you can kind of get two things at once. You can eat and hear live music.
Yeah.
So, and that's another thing. Based on the information that someone gives me, they come to New York. They may want Spanish food. They may want Latin food. They may want Italian food. So New York, we have so many options. So depending on what their taste buds is leading them towards, that's how we plan the restaurant.
Hmm. Fun fact, for a very short stint when I lived in Las Vegas, I used to do party bus tours, and I thought that I would do that as a profession and get a bus of my own and do all of the things. That never panned out. But it was difficult trying to appease multiple parties, well, multiple people in one party when it came down to their tastes, their style of music, and where they wanted to go. So then it sounds like you flush all of that out in your forms to them. What is that communication like? What does a form look like that you're trying to extrapolate all of this information so you can curate the best experience?
So this you're talking in reference to group tours, private, like they're all traveling together, right?
Yes.
That's the only way that it can be done. But we also pre-COVID had a lunch stop during our tours, and what we did was we went to a soul food buffet. So you can kind of meet everybody's dietary needs because it's a salad bar. If you don't eat meat, so that's the way that we worked around that. So when a group may ask us, and sometimes they don't even ask us for the food. They ask us for the entertainment part, and maybe we're dropping them off at the restaurant because they already planned it themselves, because that's also happening. And with the advent and the advancement of the internet, you can find anything on your own. So a lot of times the restaurant component, they may ask for recommendations, but I leave it up to them what the final decision is, because you can't, like you said, you'll go bananas, trying to satisfy everyone's palate.
That's real. So knowing what your niche is, your unique value proposition, and what you offer, and not trying to step outside of your arena or range so that you can keep your experience authentic to you and for that consumer. So I like that you're like, hey, we don't need to step in the other lane. Let's just do the entertainment part. And then we can drop them off if needed, or make an experience where like it's a buffet style, so you don't have to get all of the angry people and the bad reviews. So speaking to the people that are listening, just stand strong, 10 toes down in what you know you offer, and try not to, maybe you can enhance that experience but not try to completely do something different, especially ahead of the FIFA World Cup. Playing and experimenting is not the best time when you're having an influx of people coming through, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
Definitely not. Just be the expert, and just, if even if you feel like you're not the expert, keep trying so that you can become that expert. So when they're looking for that thing, whatever that thing is, that they know that that's, you are the point person for that. And then anything else, maybe you can give them some feedback, or you can lead them, or kind of give them some options or things to think about. But trying to do it all is too exhausting, and you can't charge for so much, for that type
Mhm.
of service. So you're doing all this work, and then what? Because at the end of the day, we need to stay in business, and business, we need to make money.
Right. I like what you said earlier, a couple of breaths ago. It was about New Yorkers know how to basically market. And so, what is your approach to marketing, and how are you connecting? Probably word of mouth works in your favor now in the ratings and such, but how do you best market to consumers?
So that's really difficult being in a place like New York, because just like New York as a whole, like our tourism agencies, they promote New York that you must be here. That's really what the Times Square and the ball drop is all about. It's just like, you should be here. Like, so that's the imprint that they want you to have. But the secondary part of it is, because it's New York, is very competitive and very expensive to advertise here, or even about New York. So we really rely on satisfied customers, and they spread the word for us. They've been doing most of the heavy lifting for us, and we're grateful to them for that.
I love it. I love it. What role does storytelling play in converting a visitor into a lifelong ambassador for the city? So, some of these people, you said they come, you give them the experience, and they feel like they're New Yorkers after that. What do you think you do well in your storytelling that makes them feel like they want to tell people about your business?
Excuse me about that. I think that sometimes is really what they see and what they feel when they go to these places, right? Because they're not in Times Square. So where all the hustle and bustle of tourism is, and like, they see the buses, the public transportation to get to the starting point for the tour. Some people choose to take taxis or car service, but we recommend taking the subway. So if you follow our directions, right, we say, well, take the 6 train. It'll take you there. It's 10 minutes where you could get caught in traffic for 35 minutes, and it's going to cost you more. So we kind of, like, from the very beginning, from the start point, we suggest take the subway. And once they do that, to get to us and then join us, and they're with nothing but New Yorkers, from the bus driver to the tour guide to the person they spoke to on the phone, they just feel more comfortable. It's just like they get that, they remove the fear of what they may have heard or what they may have imagined.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, as we're coming to a close, are you listing on things like Airbnb experiences or any other spaces so you can increase visibility for the business?
So yeah, I just and so when Airbnb Experiences first started, just a backstory, I was one of
Hmm.
the people who kind of introduced them to most of the experiences that they were offering early on were experiences that I created for others, right? So now I'm getting ready to engage with them because they changed some of the things that how they were operating had needed to be changed, and I'm glad that they made those changes. So now that they have, I'm going to give it a shot with our own brand of Hush Tours experiences. So we're going to see. I'm going to try one or two tours to see how that goes because it could be kind of messy because everyone wants to jump into that space, but we try to stay true to what we offer, and we are really what's the best word to say? We are proud of how we represent New York City to the world, and we want to make sure that that quality that a person is expecting we can deliver, but we also don't want to be amongst everybody that's trying to do every single thing.
That makes perfect sense. That's the advice for somebody who's listening. Don't let corporate entities water down the product. That's the best way that I can kind of understand and take away from what you just shared. Even though I'm not in the space, I can kind of understand it. You got to keep it true to you. Keep it, the New York way. Keep it, the way to do things, and letting other entities get involved sometimes just waters down the experience. So I love that advice. I know there are a few people who have mentioned, listing on Airbnb. And so we're not saying don't. We're saying just figure out the best and right choice for you and your business and also do your due diligence. So I heard Deborah say she's going to do a few tours to test it out. So that's what we would suggest that you do as well. Thank you for sharing so much about what you do. I really appreciate it. I'm so excited. Like I said offline, we've spoken to people that are they're not as involved in the entertainment. And that's a big, important piece when it comes to hosting for the FIFA World Cup. We've spoken to people who work on the marketing and the finance, but they're not going to be as involved with actually making sure that people feel welcomed here. So to have you on is a big plus. We appreciate you. Tell people how they can, if they're in the New York area, how they can do a tour, they can book with you and meet you in person.
Right. So they can visit our website, hushtours.com. That gives updates of all of our existing tours. And then we also have new tours that we test out every once in a while, or we offer specialty tours in between. Like for Black History Month, we have a special tour that we designed just for February. So, just check the website. If you don't think that you're going to make it to New York this year, hopefully we'll be here next year and the year after that. So it's important if you are someone who grew up in the culture to kind of experience and celebrate it before they take our music and start rearranging who started it, where it started it, why it started. We can't have that. And if you have children and they're into the culture because they were born into it, it's also important for them to learn some of the roots of the culture.
Thank you so much again. You guys, make sure you come back and watch this again, share it with a friend, invite people to the space so that they can take some of this information and apply it to what they do as a small business, as a creativepreneur, solopreneur, etc. Thank you again, Deborah, and thank you for watching. Come back and listen to the next episode on Whole City Hustle.
Thank you.
Welcome to another episode of Host City Hustle. If you're watching this behind the scenes video, you are a small business owner, a creativepreneur, a solopreneur, or gig worker with a product, brand, or service. And this is your access to education and resources to help you prepare for the FIFA World Cup. Today's guest is Deborah Harris, founder of Hush Hip Hop Tours, a cultural tourism brand rooted in music, history, and community storytelling. In this episode, Deborah will share how cities like New York leverage culture, legacy, and local voices to welcome a global audience, and what small businesses can learn from that approach as they prepare for the FIFA World Cup of 2026. Have your pen, have your paper ready, plan to re listen and apply what you've learned today, and stay tuned. The transcripts will be made available, as well as any educational materials, our AI planner, and Deborah's links. Thank you, Deborah, for joining us on an episode of Host City Hustle. We were talking offline about the weather out there in New York. You're not snowed in. That's a good thing. Tell us a little bit about how you got started in the tourism space, specifically how you founded Hush Tours, and you've focused on culture at that.
Well, thank you for inviting me to be a guest with you this afternoon. Yeah, so I am a native New Yorker, and I grew up in the Bronx, like when hip hop was getting started. And I moved around in the city a lot, and then living in Manhattan, which was a really, really high tourist area. I was like, wait a minute, like when people come here, what, like, are they doing anything with hip hop? Because I actually thought it may have existed. So I looked it up and there was nothing coming up. And I was like, wow, that don't make any sense. Lauryn Hill was banging it out. She was winning and being nominated for so many Grammys. So I did some research and I became a licensed sightseeing tour guide, but not to be the tour guide, but just to kind of learn the industry. And my vision from the very beginning was to give the pioneers a platform for them to share their stories firsthand, because this was all records in rotation, so they weren't getting radio spins, but they also had um, a lot of people on their shoulders because they laid the foundation. So that's really what it was. I wanted to increase tourism to areas that were underserved as far as New York City is concerned. And I wanted to give the pioneers of hip hop a platform to share their stories and preserve the culture of hip hop at the same time.
I love that story. And I love that you found a lane, one that was speaking to your heart, but also filling up a space where I think it's definitely needed. I'm curious though, when you first got started, what was maybe the biggest? Was it getting the permits? Was it getting the license? What was the biggest, I guess, thing that you had to tackle in order to get the business started?
Yeah, well, so there's guidebooks when you travel. Not so much so now because you have the internet, but there still are guidebooks. So in those guidebooks, especially coming to a city like New York with so many residents, they had things that they would be in print advising people what to do, but at the same time, what not to do, right? So some of the not to do's were some of the things that I wanted them to do, which was go off the beaten path, go into the neighborhoods, go to places and restaurants where the people who live in New York City, where we eat and where we shop and where, and kind of like really get a chance to experience New York as a New Yorker. So that was one of the challenges, changing the mindset of people that followed the guidebook. But because hip hop is such a cultural, universal music and platform and genre and everything, you already had a built-in audience that, wow, once they heard that they could do some of these things, it kind of like spoke right to them. So I really was working against what the traditional tourism scene felt like. I kind of like said the way I like to consider it is I did a remix. I remixed what sightseeing in New York City was.
Oh, I love that. Speaking of remix, who's your favorite DJ?
Oh no, I know you're talking about. I don't have a favorite DJ. No way. I
I
this
love that. It's hard to pick a favorite, especially when you're there in the Mecca.
right. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's on your mood, because now it's so many DJs that there's DJs that they still mixing and blending and cutting and scratching. Then you have these other DJs that they just playing hits. So it depends.
Yeah. I
But I
like
love
that. That's a
DJ
good
culture
response.
overall. I love
Who is
DJ
it?
culture overall.
Who is it one more time?
So I said I love the DJ culture overall.
I love that. I love that. Okay, then. So you've been in the game for what, 20 years now?
20 plus years.
That's
And, we
amazing.
had to pause because of COVID. So that was like minus COVID years. We weren't operating. But yeah, we've been doing it for 20 plus years.
So what changes have you seen evolve over time? Especially speak to the time of the pandemic. What did you do during that time of being off?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I was so focused on family and health that, like the business just went to sleep. It just wasn't a priority. But post COVID, that's when a lot of the changes of the structure of the business had to come into play. You know, gift and curse because we had office space, we had buses, we had to, we can't carry bus insurance and not have passengers. So a lot of the things that we were doing and some of the goals that we were set to reach, they got railroaded.
Yeah. It sounds like that's still a core memory for you. That still kind of, it sounds like that still kind of hits a nerve.
It does because although COVID, we're in 2026 and it was 2020, 2021, 2022, the impacts are still here. You just don't hear about it. So, like, even with tourism and how they measure tourism here in New York City and probably globally, it hasn't come back to the numbers pre COVID.
Yeah.
Some industries may feel it a little more, like the airlines. They probably are back to their numbers because people just got cabin fever and they want to travel. But that doesn't necessarily mean that when they travel, they're doing all the other things that they were doing, pre-COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I know for me personally, I haven't traveled basically since that time. During that time, I was having children.
Okay.
Um, but I know that's probably the case for some other people too. And then a lot of the businesses here in my area, I live in Washington for you guys who are watching and listening. I live in Washington State, and just to see some of your favorite businesses who are no more. Yeah, yeah. But you've been able to still pivot. You've had to focus on making some changes within the business post COVID. You're obviously still, moving forward. I want to know, let's talk about some of the highlights, some of your favorite parts of doing what you do.
So there's a couple. One, to the core of why I started it is like to give the people who created hip hop an opportunity to get up and close and personal with their fans and introduce their work and their legacy to the younger audience. So that's always going to be a driving factor. But I also appreciate the customers that do choose Hush Tours when they after they experience a Hush tour, they're like almost feeling like they're New Yorkers. Like they'll take the train after this. They'll come back and not have to book with us because we take them to places where now what they read or what they heard, they understand that that's not really accurate. So the satisfaction from the customers, because customer service is really, really, really important for our business.
Yeah, those reviews, those ratings, sounds like it. And the fact that you're able to curate this amazing experience that just changes their outlook on New York and you giving them the New York experience. So I love that. And this is why we are having these conversations for Whole City Hustle so we can reimagine what it looks like to welcome tourists in our area as well. I'm curious, it sounds like there's different parts to what you do. Someone's in charge of working with the artist, perhaps, and then you have to build out the tours, and then you have to do the customer service. Which part of it do you do, or do you do all things? Because that tends to happen with small business owners too.
Yeah. So there's times that I wear many hats, but because we have a lot, like so many things are on, so many sales are online now
Hmm.
that has helped because you can buy a ticket any time of the day, right? No matter what region you are, what time zone you're in. So the website never closes, and most of our customers pre-book. It's not like you decide when you get here what you're going to do. When you come to New York City, most people already have an idea what their itinerary is, and New York is promoted in a way that get it now or you might miss it, right? So with that type of energy, people pre-book. Um, But what I really enjoy doing is creating tours. Like, so we have our standard tours that we do, but I also do specialty tours. I curate tours for different corporate organizations, student market, or couples, or just smaller groups. So, like, they may have more interest in graffiti and murals. So, like, when I can create something after they tell me what it is that they're passionate about, that is really what keeps me. I love doing that. That's
So
the highlight for me.
specialty tours,
Yes,
themed tours.
yes.
Okay, so right away, what jumps out to you when a sports team is coming and they say they want to work with you and if you can curate a tour for them? What
So
jumps out?
yeah, so
Your audio went out for a second. I don't think it's you. Maybe just a call that came through or something. I see your lips moving. Hold on.
okay,
I hear you now.
okay, no problem. So what I was saying is most times if a